Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Andrew Alness Olson, and I am the Program Director International at Mid-Atlantic Arts. Today, we're going to share information about Performing Arts Global Exchange, focusing on the process for presenters to receive grant subsidy from Mid-Atlantic Arts to present an artist on this year's roster of international artists. This webinar is meant to serve as an overview and a resource. Before being in touch with a roster artist agent, I do encourage you to review the Performing Arts Global Exchange guidelines at midatlanticarts.org. You can also reach out to me with questions about the guidelines at any time. My email is andrew@midatlanticarts.org, and I'll drop a link to the guidelines and my email in the chat so that everybody has that. For today's webinar, we have about 20 minutes of information to share with you through this slide deck, followed by share-outs from the agents and artists on the roster. And then we'll have time for questions or potentially to join a breakout room with the agents just to ask them questions in a more private space. If you do have questions at any point during the presentation, please put them in the chat, and I'll get to those as soon as I can. And then I do also just want to mention that captioning is available on the call. So feel free to click the show captions button to turn that on for yourself. Throughout your Performing Arts Global Exchange process, if you are in need of any accommodations, please contact me, and I'd be happy to work with you on that. So here's our agenda for today. We will share information about Mid-Atlantic Arts, and then we'll get into details about Performing Arts Global Exchange, including how the artists on the roster were selected. We'll have a share out from the roster artists that are a part of the program this year, and we'll go over eligibility requirements and the short page grant form as well. But first, let's just share a little bit about my organization, Mid-Atlantic Arts. We are a nonprofit organization created in 1979. Mid-Atlantic Arts supports artists, presenters, and organizations through unique programming, grant support, partnerships, and information sharing. We work alongside the region state arts councils and the National Endowment for the Arts. We are one of 6 regional arts organizations that you can see on the map. Now, let's pivot to Performing Arts Global Exchange. This is a national grant opportunity open to nonprofit presenters based anywhere in the United States. I know we have folks on the call who are certainly based outside the Mid-Atlantic, and that is perfectly fine. Despite the Mid-Atlantic moniker in our organizational name, we do have a couple national grant programs that are open to folks spread out across the country, and this is one of those. So Performing Arts Global Exchange supports robust touring of selected international roster artists throughout the country with a public performance and community engagement activity required in each presenter's community. Specifically, funded engagements need to take place between July 1st, 2025 and June 30th of 2026 in order to receive grant support. So we're going to talk about the details of the program today, but I strongly encourage you to review those guidelines that I posted in the chat before beginning a conversation with the artist or agent or afterwards, just to make sure you're fully up to date with the grant program. So how was the roster selected? After choosing a region of the world to focus on, which this year we're focusing on Morocco and South Africa, we then hire international nominators from that region to make recommendations of exciting tour-ready ensembles. Bios for each of the nominators on the screen are available on our website. These 4 folks nominated approximately 5 groups each, which we compiled into a survey and sent out to presenters across the country to gauge their interest. Feedback from this survey was then used to select the final roster of touring artists. And I'm just going to repost that link to the guidelines for folks that joined after I had shared them previously. So to meet eligibility requirements for this support, presenters must be based anywhere in the US or its territories. They must be a 501c3 nonprofit organization or be a unit of state or local government or federally recognized Indian tribal governments. If you are a for-profit presenter, I'm sorry, this program is not for you, but other presenters generally meet these requirements. Lastly, you do need to be in good standing with Mid-Atlantic Arts, which just means that you don't have any overdue or outstanding final reports or grant documents from a previous grant with us. So how does the grant work? Here are the steps of the process. Presenters can reach out directly to the roster artist tour agents to begin discussing joining a tour, finding out if it's possible based on the dates that are open, the kind of price points, etc. Or an agent might approach you as well. Presenters and tour agents negotiate the terms of the engagement by the deadline of March 27th, 2025, and presenters submit countersigned letters of agreement to tour agents by this date, by March 27th. Tour agents then make funding recommendations to Mid-Atlantic Arts. After these letters of invitation are accepted by the tour agent, presenters will receive an intent to award notification from Mid-Atlantic Arts, basically saying you've been tentatively recommended for a grant of X amount of dollars. In order to confirm that grant, we need to confirm your eligibility for the grant program. And so we'll ask you to fill out a grant form to complete in April 2025. We'll go into the details of that grant form in just a moment, but we do work to make it as simple as possible. After receiving the information in that form, we go through our formal grant approval process and award grants in June of 2025. Up to 3 grants per presenter, and touring takes place between July 1st, 2025 and June 30th, 2026. Now, I do want to note here that grants can be up to 50% of the artist fee, but that does not mean that getting 50% will be possible for you or even possible for anyone this year. We announced the roster of artists earlier this year than in previous years of the program and are receiving a lot of interest from presenters. And so it's likely that in your negotiations with the agent, particularly if their artist and the tour is very popular, you'll need to be ready to come in at a lower grant amount. In previous years, we have been able to fund at higher amounts, but that really just kind of depends on the year. And based on the information I have so far, it looks like this is going to be a year where funds are just spread around a little bit more. If we can increase the grant later on, we will, but you should not count on that. So a quick word about engagement activities. I mentioned this earlier, but in addition to a public performance, you also need to be having a community engagement activity with the artist you're bringing to your town or your community. The artist, the tour agent, and the presenters work together to kind of plan the required community engagement activity at each venue. Options can include, but are not limited to, masterclasses, lecture demonstrations, and pre or post-performance moderated discussions. The activity does need to include the featured artist. The engagement activity is a requirement of the grant, and you'll need to tell us what you are planning for the engagement activity in your grant form. So don't forget to discuss this when setting up the initial details of the performance agreement with the agent, especially as some engagements, if you do want to do something that's more involved, which we would recommend, may require an extra day in town or a higher artist fee, etc. We've even in some cases with certain presenters in the past done agreements where there are multiple kind of community engagement activities over several days, and the performance is actually the kind of smaller part of what the artist is doing in town. So just know that there are options available for you if that's something you'd be interested in. So let's talk about those letters of agreement, which again are due to the tour agent by March 27th, 2025. These can be drafted by the presenter or by the agent, and they need to have it in hand. The agent needs to have this in hand by March 27th. And it should include everything listed on the screen here. The presenter name and contact info, the roster artist you're booking, details of the performance and community engagement, including dates, times, and locations as known at the time of the letter, negotiated artist fee, plus any additional support, housing, per diem, backline, travel, etc. And then also, as discussed with the agent, include the proposed grant recommendation amount. The artist compensation amount, the total fee includes the grant. The total fee is inclusive of the grant. So if you're agreeing to a $7,000 artist fee with 30% support, you might list that in the letter of agreement as a $7,000 fee contingent on a $2,100 grant from Mid-Atlantic Arts. So the venue would receive a $2,100 grant from Mid-Atlantic and would use those funds plus $4,900 from their own budget to pay the full $7,000 fee. So once you've submitted that letter of invitation to the agent, or the letter of agreement to the agent, and Mid-Atlantic has asked you to fill out a grant form, this is what you will need to do. This will happen in April of 2025. You'll get an invitation from me asking you to fill out this form, and it's really made of 3 components submitted through our online grant portal, Smart Simple. You'll upload that letter of agreement. There are a few narrative questions, and then you'll submit a few organizational details like your annual budget, if you have a deficit as an organization, etc. So there are 3 narrative questions you'll need to fill out, which are listed on this slide. The first 2 are about the community engagement activity. And the last is just about how this work, bringing this artist into your community, can help support diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. If awarded, 100% of the presenter grant will be released at the beginning of the grant period, which typically is about 30 days prior to the first engagement activity. So 30 days in advance of the performance in your city, provided that the following items have been completed. You need to have signed the grant award agreement, confirming the grant, and then you also need to upload a copy of the fully executed artist contract. So beyond the letter of agreement, when you get around to contracting the artist, we do require seeing that before sending out the grant award. I recommend going to contract as soon as possible. It's just always good to fully verify and confirm that we're all coming at this from the same direction and get things contracted. The last thing I'll say here is that while grants are typically released around 30 days before the performance, if you are paying a deposit to the artist and that's written into the contract, you can let our grants management team know that you'll be doing that and request an early disbursement of the grant. Because international artists have so many upfront costs for tours, from flights to visa expenses, um, CWAs, etc. I do recommend trying to get a deposit written into that contract so that they do have some of those funds upfront to cover those types of expenses. A final report for the funded project does need to be completed 30 days after the performance. You'll be able to see that final report and what's required when you do get the grant. It's basically a brief description of how the project went, kind of impacts on your community, as well as just an accounting of the kind of finances of how the grant funds were spent. Lastly, I want to just go over a few grant restrictions. You can receive as a presenter up to 3 grants by contracting up to 3 separate artists from the roster. I also do want to point out that there are limited funds available for these tours, so please reach out and talk to agents as soon as you can. Get on their radar and start figuring out how to join the tour. If you come to an agent on March 20th, they may still have grant funds available, but it's certainly not necessarily going to be the case. And even if funds are all kind of set aside, I'd still recommend seeing about joining a tour for these artists. At the very least, you'll know that there are many other presenters taking part in these tours, and so there's some stability with that. I do also want to just make clear that the grant is not officially confirmed until the grant award agreement is signed in June, but we are creating these tours with the knowledge of the amount of grant funding that is currently available for the tours. So there shouldn't be any surprises. And then just want to note that funding is restricted to the direct cost of the project, which in this case is that artist fee. And that because this grant is funded by federal funds from the National Endowment for the Arts, they must be matched on a one-to-one basis with non-federal funds. We do build that match directly into the grant since we're not providing more than 50% of the artist fee as a grant. So there is already going to be kind of that match built in. So that was me kind of rambling for about 20 minutes here on the kind of boring side of this, the grant process, but a very important part of it. Please let me know if you have questions. My email and phone number are in the chat, and I'm happy to go over this. But I think what we're all mostly looking forward to today is a chance to actually hear from the agents directly and watch a few video clips of these artists. And so let's dive in here. Justine, if you don't mind unmuting, we'll move to the Leila.
Hi, everyone. So I'm working with the Leila. She is a rock singer-songwriter from Morocco, touring with a 6-piece band. It is 8 people on tour in total. I would say that all of the artists that I work with fit sort of the similar line of the Leila, where she has this sort of root music as a basis, but she layers on different kinds of progressive rock. And as there is this fusion happening, you have a really beautiful mixture of traditional Moroccan music, progressive rock, and you also have an element of electronic music, especially effects on the vocals that create a really contemporary take on Moroccan music. I love working with female artists because they are not represented nearly as much as they should be on our stages or even on our listening platforms nowadays. The Leila has a really strong voice, a beautiful, sultry, smoky voice, but predominantly a strong voice. She is a beautiful visual artist who wears fantastic clothes and who dances on stage. So it's not just that her music is contemporary and representative of what young Moroccan musicians are creating today, but she's also just beautiful to watch on stage, engaging to watch on stage. But Andrew, if you could play a bit of her concert, that would be great.
شيء وشتا حاجه مزيانه. رقب رقب عليا وقول لي يا درا جيب والدك ولديت وحده اخرى. رقب رقب عليا وقول لي شاس رازينك هبليا. رقب رقب عليا وقول لي يا درا جيب والدك ولديت وحده اخرى. رقب رقب عليا وقول لي شاس رازينك محليا.
So I should quickly say that I have not discussed with the Leila what we could potentially do for community outreach, but she does speak English very well. So I think there is a lot of room to tailor community outreach events to your specific audiences. Again, I really want to drive home how important it is to get women musicians on stages, especially those that represent communities that are already underrepresented. I think it's wonderful that we have a empowered Muslim woman leading a band of men. I think that's not something we get to see very often. Oh, and instrumentation. Someone's asking about instrumentations. Yes, guitar, bass, drums, percussion, singer, and who am I missing here? I'm sorry, didn't come prepared for this. I should have. But basically the instrumentation is sort of standard of a rock band. We would need some backline, obviously, but we can discuss this in more detail if you're interested. And I should say some people did write while I was at the APAP and ISPA conferences. I am getting to those emails and will respond very shortly. Thank you.
Thanks, Justine. And yeah, Chantel will make sure to get you both connected to get that final instrument figured out after the call. So next up, we've got Tarwa N-Tiniri, another group from Morocco, and we've got Alex on the call who's working with them. So Alex, if you want to take it away, or let me know if you want me to play the video first. I'm happy to do that. Oh, and you're muted. If you could unmute. Still no luck. There we go.
There we go. Okay. You can hear. Okay. Okay.
Alex, would you like me to play the video first, or do you want to pitch them?
You can put the video first.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Alex, over to you.
Okay. Tarwa N-Tiniri will be coming in the US for the first time. And six musicians on stage. And they are from Ouarzazate, Morocco. And they were chosen. I saw them the last time I was with them, and that was in Visa for Music. I was blown away by their own show. It reminds me a little bit of Tinari Wen from the beginning, you know, like Tinari Wen from Niger, from Mali, Niger. But, you know, what I like, their style is a little bit more groovy. And I think they are, I'm pretty sure that the people in the US will love them because, you know, what happened is that they are very communicative with the people in the audience, and then they like to share the culture, like to share everything that they do, and then the instruments are very different from the others. They use some of the local instruments from Morocco, and but I think what makes them very interesting is the voice, and they are really willing to tour. But not only to sing, but also to have the people participating in their audience or in their show, you know. So they are ready. I don't know what to tell you more about it, but it's going to be a lot of big surprise with them, you know. Hello.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, Tarwa is so great. We're going to have a great tour with them and definitely recommend connecting with Alex to discuss further. Like you mentioned, it's their first tour, their US premiere, but they're doing great things in North Africa and throughout Europe as well, and really excited to get them over to the States for the first time. Let's move on then to the next group from South Africa. Bill, you're in the hot seat. Over to you. Or we said we were going to do video first, so let me get that kicked off, actually.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to speak now?
Let me get the video started here, and then we can have you go after.
With a glance of your eyes, your love is better than the finest wine. Say, Toronto, when I'm saying, we're on to we'll meet again. Ooh, my love and sunshine, we sing along and say, my love and sunshine, we sing along and say, hey, my love and sunshine, we sing along and say. Instruction. I need a brass on stage and I don't have one. You guys are going to be my brass section.
So I'll stop it here just for sake of time, but she does go on to do a great kind of audience participation thing that, well, Bill can speak more to, but a very, very interactive, certainly on stage.
Okay, Nomfusi is from Johannesburg, South Africa, where she grew up under apartheid with no parents, which is it's a very interesting story. She weaves that into her performance, which is very joyous. She's been described as having the soul of Mama Africa meeting Motown. Critics liken her to young Miriam Makeba with a twist of Tina Turner. She does tour with not the large group you saw in this video, but 4 other musicians, typical format of bass, guitar, drum kit, and keyboards. She will be touring September, October of 25, January, February of 26, hopefully April of 26, and June of 26. She has previously toured with Center Stage. The people who presented her on Center Stage all want her back. She's extremely dynamic. Her performance is very joyous. I first saw her in Wales during a Womex conference 10 years ago. And I was dealing with a South African manager at that point who disappeared from the picture. And I was only able to reestablish communication with her perhaps 8 months ago, and mainly through Center Stage. I was delighted to be able to represent her. She, on stage, she has as you can see, a very dynamic performance. She hooks everybody into her performance and engages very much in audience participation. She's very accustomed to outreach, which there's really a variety of things she could do. There could be singing with percussion and drumming, and percussion drum circles, and if wanted, they can do dance also. She does motivational speaking and goes into more detail about her upbringing in the workshops. She also teaches click, which is a distinctly South African way of speaking. And frankly, I didn't know what it was before I started reading about it. And it would be sounds like tut-tut or tisk-tisk, which I think you'll recognize. And there are many more. To sum it up, this came from Business Day. Unlike many of her more image-conscious peers, Nomfusi's music has a vivacity, danceability, and community awareness. I welcome any more questions. Oh, I almost forgot. In a documentary film about Nelson Mandela, she had a brief role as the wife of Nelson Mandela, and that would be Winnie Mandela. I think I have nothing else to tell you, but I welcome your questions. Oh, excuse me. She sings in both Hausa and English, and as you can see in the video, she speaks English very well. That's it for me.
Thank you, Bill. Any quick questions from folks? All right, we'll think on it. We'll have a few minutes at the end of the call for questions as well, but we'll pivot to the next group. We've got Jeremy, Nedd, and Impilo Mapantsula. I'm very excited to introduce to you Jeremy, who I myself have not met until this moment. So Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us for this call. Jeremy is based in Switzerland, as is the agent who's working on this, Sarah DeGank, and so it's quite late in the evening. So thank you, Jeremy, for taking the time to join us today. Or no, you're not even in Switzerland at the moment, are you?
No, I'm in Accra, actually. So I'm coming in from Ghana. So apologies if the connection a little bit.
All good. We'll take it away. Would you like me to show the teaser first, or do you want to dive in?
Sure, that sounds good.
All right. All right, over to you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening or good afternoon. So on behalf of collaborators of Impilo Mapantsula, myself, proudly present The Ecstatic. It's a work that premiered in Basel, Switzerland in 2019, and we've had the pleasure of touring it all over Europe, some stops in South America, and even we're happy to say we've been able to show the work also in Africa, East and South. And we're looking forward to hopefully bringing the work also to the States, being super important for me as a New Yorker. So there's a whole project description that's already online, so I figured it'd be cool to say how this project came to be. It's the result of a 3-month residency that I spent in Johannesburg, where essentially I wanted to learn Pantsula because I recognized something in it from, seeing it on music videos, and that's very similar to the way that I would construct and use movement. I tend to work with movement that might be considered outside of virtuosic or, like a marginalized space, so to say. And that's how I came to, wanting to learn deeper, from them. Um, where else can I say? But when it came to making a work together, I thought it'd be very important to find something that not just spoke to South African context and my context as a Black American, and Impilo's context, the collective of 6 performers in this specific work. But it was something that I thought would be interesting that we could have a meeting point, and that's how I came to this idea of The Ecstatic. And it's essentially a work that explores the virtuosity, the rigor, the beauty of Pantsula, a completely distinct, authentically South African movement practice. And I brought it into proximity with the praise break, which is coming from, I guess, the Black church, Black Pentecostal church, Methodist church, and this moment of cathartic release. Because I guess when we would train Pantsula, it was very clear to me that there was something that was tied to the virtuosity that was just very energetic. And it had this kind of like release, lack of a better term. So that's kind of the departure point for the piece. It's 6 performers on stage, as I said, 3 touring along on the other side. I usually run the sound, and then we have someone who does the stage, and of course our tour manager who comes along. What else? In terms of community engagement, workshops are a huge part of the work we do. Pantsula coming from a very specific context. One can even say it's a product of, apartheid era. It's a movement that's a product of oppression. So it's very important to Impilo to give back to the community and everything that they do. And I share that moral, that ethic. So whenever we go and we do shows throughout Europe, or we've done shows in South America and Brazil, and of course also in the South and the East of Africa, we've done workshops, which is essentially geared towards young and old, professional, not professional. And that's been a part of the mission for sure. So it's an energetic work, but it's just as much a part of the work to share the beauty and the history of Pantsula. So if there's any questions, hope you hear me okay. And yeah, I'm available. Is that good, Andrew?
That was great, Jeremy. Yeah, thank you so
Okay.
much. I'll just add that this is our first year having dance and theater back on. We're about to get to theater in a moment here on the roster in 2 or 3 years. So we're very excited. And just what Jeremy said, Paige is all about the kind of community engagement, having deeper discussions with audiences. And what I really love about this is that it is already, as created, a work that brings the American context, to the South African context with Pantsula and the work that Impilo Mapantsula is doing. And so I love how that's kind of already just built into the very nature of the work. And I think will lead to a lot of really great opportunities for that community engagement and additional work alongside the performance. So Heather, you unmuted. Do you have a quick question?
Yeah, I was curious if you have any plans at all for touring the US, like timing wise.
At the moment, no,
Okay.
not with this work. But hopefully this will be the beginning of such opportunities.
Yeah, so Heather, reach out to Sarah at the email on the screen here. It's also on the website if you click the link that's in the chat. I know there are a couple of other presenters for sure that are very interested in the work. And so get in there early, share your avails, and figure out, how to bring this work to your part of the US. Because, yeah, we're very excited to be supporting this work in the coming season. Other questions?
I was just curious to know if, hi everyone, this is Amy from Penn State, by the way. Just curious to know if there's a way to get some sense of artist fee and this is not for this particular project. This is just generally speaking with the page projects. Is there a way to, I recognize that every presenter, pays their own, sliding scale of situation, but just is there a way to get some type of sense of the asks?
I'll jump in first and then pass it off to the agents that we for this program we don't publish a pay like general fee ranges at this point just because of like international expenses and how that kind of ties into things. But certainly recommend reaching out to agents and seeing just initially, like what is the general, opening ask here. And so I don't know if any of the agents here have a different response there or if that sounds pretty accurate, just that to reach out and see, just because it really does depend so much on, are they already kind of routing through your area? How much is that potentially going to change the fee? Bill, I don't know if you have anything to add other than just reach out and ask the agent about potential fees. I think that is what we're going to go with, Amy. So thank you for the question. Let's move on to the last group that we've got here. This is Empatheatre. Justine, do you want me to start with the documentary clip?
I just want to quickly set it up. So Empatheatre is a social theater company from Durban, South Africa. They really work with community to create, as their name suggests, works that explore empathy for the many hardships that humanity faces. Their work is extremely important, not just based on the themes that they present in their shows, but also because of the process that is used to create these works of art. So Andrew's going to play a little bit of a documentary that I encourage you to watch the whole thing. It's about 5 minutes in total, but it really gives you a great idea of the process and what moves them to create this work.
Complex problems in unequal societies require careful yet rigorous explorations of different ways of knowing, being, and doing. When popular and political debates are polarized and filled with judgments, entangled livelihoods and marginalized voices are often ignored. It's why we believe that creative and empathetic methods can facilitate multiple forms of listening to and sharing knowledge across diverse publics. Empatheatre is one such method. Emerging from the South African context, Empatheatre has, over the past 5 years, developed innovative new ways of constructing social spaces for equitable public dialogue, creating an amphitheatre for empathy that embraces, rather than shies away from, complex entanglements in society. Since 2014, the Empatheatre team has tackled social concerns ranging from...
I'll stop it there, but please do, if you're interested in their work, look up this video. It's on our website for some additional details.
So I think the next thing that I should mention is that Empatheatre works entirely in the round. All of their shows are done in the round. This is created to sort of remove a hierarchical structure from the experience, also to create a greater investment, I think, from the audience into what they're viewing. And also because their work actually comes with a sort of built-in outreach event, which is that after every single one of their performances, they do an audience talkback session. As you saw, there was a photo in the documentary where you see the audience is still in that circle, where again, there's no hierarchy. Nobody's voice has more validity or value than anybody else's. So that is why they always create in that circular form, which I think is really interesting. This, we understand, may limit some venues from being able to do theater in the round. It may not work in your space, but we encourage you to think a little bit outside of the box to be able to do this in performance spaces, non-traditional performance spaces, I should say, because these shows can be performed in non-traditional spaces. The company is going to be touring with 2 shows. So the number of artists that you see, a total of 9, potentially 10, would be everyone that we need to do 2 different shows. The first one is Listen to the Sea. We call it La Leila for short. And Andrew, if you want to play that.
Yeah. So again, I'm just going to do a small portion of the teaser here.
Back in the day, it was said there were more fish in the sea than there were grains of sand on the Durban beaches.
The communities that make up this coastline are not just a single group or a single voice.
Without you even knowing, your breathing is moving in time with the waves and everything just melts away.
It was fantastic. The whole idea of the theatre and around, the whole idea of Empatheatre takes stories into a new medium.
My mother had once told me how Moses had parted the waves to let his people through. I was secretly hoping the sea would do the same thing for me.
It's done as raining. Please can we go home? You remember what he used to say? No, Kana. What he used to say.
So La Leila really focuses on the threat to our oceans and our waterways, and how that threat is not just environmental, it's cultural, it's economic, how people are impacted by the threat to our oceans. The second show that they're going to be touring with is called The Last Country. The Last Country is focused on women migrants, particularly women who migrate from one African country to another. All of these women have been displaced also by environmental disasters. So I think it's something to keep in mind that as we continue to face the threat to our environment, we will see more and more migration. But go ahead, Andrew, please play the video.
Why did you come here? Did you come here to steal our men? I feel very sorry for a person who does not have a home.
Running through unfamiliar landscapes and languages. Running through countries that didn't care for us. In the beginning, it was just me. Then there was 12 of us. And then there was 20. And by the time we got to Tanzania, the group had grown to about 40 people. Sorry, wait for me, I'm also coming that way.
You know, when you come from a landlocked country, you're only used to seeing things like lakes and dams and rivers. But seeing the ocean for the first time, that is something you never forget.
I was amazed by this lot of water that was bubbling and boiling. Water that you could not even tell where it was coming from.
All we heard was that it was easy to get a job there. that South Africa was a land of wealth and possibilities with golden beaches.
So I think the really beautiful part about this theater, in addition to, addressing so many of these universal themes, is that even though they are being addressed in an African context, they are themes that affect us in our daily lives as well. And I really hope that you'll strongly consider this. We can discuss this more. We're hoping that people will take a chance on presenting both shows and not just one. But if you want to present just one show, we're open to that as well.
Thank you, Justine. So that brings to a close the kind of pitch session of the call, and we are at the end of our time. I did just want to share some important dates for the program one last time. Again, get those offer letters into agents by March 27th, and do reach out to them as soon as possible so they can start slotting you into the tours that they're creating. After you submit those letters of agreement, I'll be in touch in April to ask you to fill out a short grant form where you'll need to include details of the community engagement activity. And then in June, we'll send you a formal grant award agreement to confirm everything. And then the tours would take place in the July 1st, 2025 through the end of June of 2026. So we are pretty close to the end of the time, so this might not work, but I will just briefly open up some breakout rooms. You'll be able to choose which one you go into. So the agents will be in the corresponding room with their artist name. So feel free to choose one of those that you'd like to hop into. And if you have any then distinct questions for the agents, you could start it there, or maybe just schedule a time to have a deeper conversation. Otherwise, you can stay in here with me, ask me any questions about the grant program, and we are at time. So totally understand as well if you need to just head out. But please do send an email to folks if you're interested in booking these artists, and we'd be really glad to partner with you in this this year. So thanks so much for your time. I'm going to stop the recording here.